Let's say you're standing at the edge of something big, a new job, a passion project, maybe even a chance to finally speak your truth. But instead of jumping in, you freeze. You find excuses, you overthink, or you just walk away. Sound familiar? This is what Carl Jung would call the sneaky work of your shadow, that hidden part of you that quietly holds you back from what you're truly capable of. It's like an invisible hand pulling you down every time you try to rise. Jung knew the mind is a tricky place, and he believed these inner blocks come from stuff we don't even realize we're carrying. Let's dig into this together, because figuring out why you keep holding yourself back might just be the key to breaking free. Jung said, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality." In simple words, the shadow is all the stuff about yourself you don't want to look at. Like fears, insecurities, or things you're ashamed of. It's hiding in the back of your mind, and when you try to do something bold, it pops up to stop you. Think of a time you wanted to try something new, like starting a hobby or asking someone out, but a little voice in your head said, "You're not good enough," or "What if you fail?" That's your shadow talking. Psychologist Rollo May put it this way: fear is the price of growth. Maybe you felt that fear, like when you didn't apply for that dream job because you were scared of rejection. Jung would say that fear is your shadow keeping you small, but if you face it, you can turn it into strength. Let's talk about one way this shows up: being too hard on yourself. Ever catch yourself thinking you have to be perfect at everything? Maybe you didn't share your writing because it wasn't good enough, or you didn't join a gym because you thought you'd look silly. Jung would say this comes from your shadow, holding on to old doubts, maybe from times someone made you feel less than. Sociologist Irving Goffman called this a spoiled identity, where you let harsh words from others shape how you see yourself. I bet you've had moments where you beat yourself up over a tiny mistake, like messing up a presentation at work, and it stopped you from trying again. Jung would tell you to talk to that harsh voice, ask it why it's so scared, and slowly you can turn that self-doubt into self-kindness. Another way you might hold yourself back is by sticking to what's easy. Picture this. You've got a big idea, like starting a small business, but instead of working on it, you binge watch a show or scroll on your phone for hours. Jung would say your shadow loves keeping you comfy because stepping out means facing the unknown. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." That means when you have a chance to do something big, it can feel scary, so you avoid it. Maybe you've done this, like putting off a tough talk with a friend because it felt too hard. Jung would nudge you to lean into that discomfort, because that's where the real growth happens. Now let's think about how you might blame yourself for things that aren't your fault. Ever felt like everything bad is because of you? Maybe a relationship ended, and you thought, "I must have messed up," even if the other person was the problem. Jung would say this is your shadow carrying old guilt, stuff you haven't let go of. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived tough times, said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." I know I've been there, feeling like I caused a family argument when really it wasn't my fault. Jung would tell you to let go of that guilt, to see it for what it is, a shadow that doesn't belong to you anymore. Sometimes you might hold yourself back by pulling away from people who could help. Think of a time you were struggling, maybe feeling down about work, but instead of talking to a friend, you shut down. Jung believed your shadow can make you feel like you're better off alone, but that just makes things worse. Psychologist John Bowlby, who studied how we connect, said we all need safe relationships to feel secure. Maybe you've pushed someone away thinking, "I don't want to be a burden," only to feel lonelier. Jung would say to reach out because connecting with others can help you see your shadow more clearly and heal it. Another tricky way this happens is when you're scared of messing up. Ever skipped trying something new because you thought you'd fail? Like not signing up for cooking class because you might burn the food? Jung would say this fear of failure is your shadow keeping you stuck, afraid to take risks. Sociologist Max Weber talked about how society pushes us to always succeed, which makes failing feel like the end of the world. I've done this, like not sharing a poem I wrote because I thought people would laugh. Jung would tell you that failing is just part of growing, and your shadow only wins if you don't try at all. Let's look at how you might try too hard to make everyone happy. Ever said yes to something you didn't want to do just to keep the peace? Maybe you took on extra work because you didn't want to let your boss down, even though you were swamped. Jung would say this comes from your shadow feeling like you're not enough unless everyone likes you. Philosopher Simone de Beauvoir once said, "One is not born but rather becomes a woman," meaning we often shape ourselves to fit what others expect. I've been there, saying yes to plans I didn't want only to feel drained. Jung would encourage you to say no sometimes, to put your own needs first, because that's how you start to break free. Sometimes you might hold yourself back by dreaming too small. Ever told yourself, that's not for people like me, about a big goal, like traveling the world or starting a podcast? Jung would say your shadow is setting limits, keeping you from seeing your real potential. Psychologist Abraham Maslow, who studied what makes us thrive, said we all have a need to grow into our best selves. I've caught myself thinking I couldn't chase certain dreams like learning to dance because I thought I wasn't that kind of person. Jung would tell you to dream bigger, to let your shadow know you're capable of more than it thinks. Another way this happens is by holding on to anger at yourself. Think of a mistake you made, like snapping at a friend, and you can't let it go, even after you've apologized. Jung would say this is your shadow clinging to shame, punishing you long after the moment's passed. Sociologist Emile Durkheim might point out that we often feel this way because society teaches us to feel wrong for messing up. I've done this, beating myself up for forgetting something important, even after I fixed it. Jung would tell you to forgive yourself, because holding on to that anger only keeps you stuck. Let's think about how you might shy away from asking for what you want. Ever wanted to ask for a raise or tell someone how you feel, but didn't, because you thought you didn't deserve it? Jung would say your shadow is making you feel unworthy, hiding your true desires. Philosopher Martin Heidegger talked about being toward death, meaning we should live fully because life is short. I've held back, like not telling a friend I needed support, thinking I shouldn't bother them. Jung would say to speak, because owning your needs is how you stop your shadow from running the show. Sometimes you might hold yourself back by thinking you can't change. Ever thought, this is just who I am, about something you don't like always being late or getting too stressed? Jung would say this is your shadow tricking you into staying the same, because change feels scary. Psychologist Carol Dweck talks about a growth mindset, believing you can always improve. I've been stuck thinking I'm just not organized, until I started small changes that proved I could be. Jung would tell you that you're always growing, and your shadow can't stop that unless you let it. Let's look at how you might compare yourself to others. Ever looked at someone's life, like a coworker who seems to have it all, and felt like you're falling behind? Jung would say this is your shadow making you feel less than, ignoring your own unique journey. Sociologist Thorstein Veblen called this conspicuous consumption, where we judge ourselves by what others show off. I felt this, like thinking I'm not successful because I don't have what others do. Jung would tell you to focus on your own path, because comparing only lets your shadow win. Now let's think about how you might avoid looking at your own flaws. Ever blamed someone else for your problems, like saying your partner makes you mad instead of seeing your own part? Jung would say this is your shadow dodging the truth, because it's easier to point fingers. Philosopher Hannah Arendt talked about how ignoring our own faults can lead to bigger problems, like not taking responsibility. I've done this, like blaming a friend for a fight when I was the one who overreacted. Jung would tell you to look in the mirror, because seeing your flaws is the first step to growing past them. Sometimes you might hold yourself back by being too stubborn. Ever stuck to a plan that wasn't working, like staying in a job you hate just because you didn't want to give up? Jung would say this is your shadow resisting change, afraid of what's next. Philosopher John Dewey said we grow by adapting, not by holding on too tight. I've been there, sticking to a routine that made me miserable until I finally let go. Jung would encourage you to be flexible, because that's how you find new ways to shine. Let's talk about how you might push away good things. Ever had a chance at something great, like a new friendship or a fun opportunity, but you turned it down thinking you didn't deserve it? Jung would say this is your shadow telling you you're not worthy, even when you are. Psychologist Carl Rogers said, "The good life is a process, not a state of being." I've done this, like saying no to a cool event because I thought I wouldn't fit in. Jung would tell you to say yes to the good stuff because your shadow doesn't get to decide what you deserve. Now let's think about how you can start breaking free. Jung believed that by facing your shadow, you turn its tricks into strengths. It's like finding the gold hidden in the dark. Philosopher Albert Camus said, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." Maybe you've had a moment where you pushed past your doubts, like finally starting that project or opening up to someone, and felt stronger for it. Jung would say that's you growing step by step, turning your shadow into a friend instead of a foe. So what's been holding you back? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear what you've noticed about yourself, or what you've done to break free. Your story might help someone else see their own shadow. And if this hits home, stick around. The next video will dive deeper into how your mind plays these tricks. Keep watching, because the more you understand yourself, harder it is for your shadow to hold you back. Are you ready to keep going?